Hi everyone, I'm Madam Mansell from the UK Fashion and Textile Association, and we're here celebrating British Textile Week in association with the Cloth Workers Company and the Campaign for Wool. British Textile Week aims to celebrate the craftsmanship, creativity and innovation of the British textile industry, and I'm absolutely delighted to be here with Clare Campbell, the founder of Prickly Thistle. Clare, welcome. Can you tell us a little bit about yourself, how you got into the industry and a bit about Prickly Thistle?
Yeah, sure. No, thank you for having me along and being part of this important week for our industry. And so Prickly Thistle, bit about me. My background is I trained as a chartered accountant, probably not one of the most creative professional sort of careers. Well, it shouldn't be. Enjoyed that for many years. Got to work with some amazing companies and learn a lot of sort of commerce modeling and things like that. And yeah, I kind of reached a point in my life where I was wanted to scratch a niche, which was an area that I was personally a consumer for, but really interested in terms of the financial and industry economic impacts and things like that. So Scottish, I'm a Highland lass, and I love the aesthetics and the simpleness of what is tartan design. But as I've been doing Prickly Thistle for a few years now, it's all the parallels of emotion, identity, legacy, the ability to stand up for things that you believe in. Quite a rebellious fabric, shall we say? So I'm the rebel accountant. But then at the same time, it was really it was a challenge for me to think, how could I contribute to an industry that actually I had fallen in love with, and how could I come in, not displace what was already there. I did the due diligence, I could see the history and how it was very challenging for a lot of people and those that survived, and I wanted to come in and actually complement and grow that, but come in with something a little bit different. Prickly Thistle is the brand. We're the furthest north mill in the mainland Highlands, so we're just north of Inverness. We established our business in a very sort of modern way, not traditional for the sector. We did crowdfunding. We reached out to a global market and said we want to bring back weaving to the Scottish Highlands, and would they like to help us by investing in one of our historic tartans, the Black House Mill. So we managed to reach a huge audience and very slowly grow our team. There's now 10 of us. We've got these amazing old looms dating back to 1929, so 20th century looms, and we feel very proud to be custodians for engineering works of art, full stop. I mean, they're so incredible. And we have, in the last 2 years, developed our techniques and grown our team, and really working towards sustainability. And obviously, with being in the world of tartan, and you look at the history of tartan, it was very sustainable. You look at the native raw materials we used, you look at the kilt as a fashion piece, it was zero waste, and it had multiple reuse, repurpose, kind of next chapter uses. So we're, there's a real parallel with the past, and so we're here, and just keeping going.
Excellent. I'd just like to explore that a bit more. I mean, you used the phrase changing the future and disrupting the past. Can you just talk a little bit more about how you bring together those sort of two almost diametrically opposed bits? So you've got the past, you've got the history of tartan, and then you've got the future of the industry. How do you bring them together in your work?
Yeah, so changing the future, and I suppose that's, we've become very values based in terms of who we are, and that very much influences what we do. That sense of integrity, the authenticity, the provenance of working around a product that is very iconically associated with a country and an origin, and a romantic impression of how it comes to be. So with changing the future, is that we wanted to change the future of the cloth in terms of that values that I perceive were part of it. So how can we make that more authentic? But also, how can we use 21st century developments, whether it's in bioengineering, whether it's in other sectors, very much thinking out the box, and fully understanding the Tartan Act of 2008 and how far we can push the rules around that as to what is a tartan. So we would change the future. So this cloth is very symbolic to, for example, the clan system. You think of Culloden, it was very much, there was an act of prescription to ban it because it was, it empowered people to do something. So changing the future, we take that a little bit, but we then look to how we can actually create, and one of the phrases we use a lot on social media is, what will they say in 200 years? So we want to, we want there to be that extra level. And there you see the disrupting the past is where we take something that was iconically associated with identity, and fighting for, what was their passion or their purpose at that point, and we take that and we look at the climate change, agenda, and what's happening, this sort of fast fashion, sort of mass consumption. We're looking at, real waste problems. We're looking at plastic pandemics. So how we can actually, sort of bring that in across the past and the future, but flipping it a little bit and making sure that we put our kind of values of what matters today and tomorrow in there, as opposed to, Claude and Moore, shall we say.
Yeah. I love the idea of clothing empowering you. I think that's a fantastic thing. And from a personal point of view, I'm lucky enough to be able to wear a lot of British fabrics and clothing that's made in the UK, and it does make a difference. When I get up on stage and talk about people, having the right gear on does empower me. Anyway, not about me at all. You and I, before this interview, were having a discussion about skills. And as you know, UKFT and UKFT Scotland have been very heavily involved in the industry up in Scotland in order to promote skills and change the skills landscape. How important to you and your business are the skills, the traditional skills, the weavers, the spinners, but also the designers and the future?
Yeah, I mean, fundamental. I mean, that sort of creative skill, that ability, and I think this applies to any industry, to be honest. Having come from accountancy, I think, creative thinkers are problem solvers. They will come up with things, as opposed to maybe thinking, well, this is our only option, and then there's the undiscovered that just sits on the undiscovered shelf. So I think, so creative skills is really important first and foremost. But and with what we're doing, it's slightly not maybe on trend with what most textile businesses have maybe done over 50 years, or if they were starting afresh. I mean, we've gone old school. We've gone to, shuttle looms. We've gone to these rare, beautiful, as I say, works of art that actually made of cast iron. I firmly believe, in my accountancy, hat on in terms of, a fixed asset register, is that they will outlive probably most things that are on the go. They don't rely on a piece of tech that maybe it gets superseded. These are beautiful work, and they're, yes, they're a bit slower and may not produce as much, but I think that very much flies the flag for the fact that we have mass produced, we've created waste, we produce too much. But the skills to operate these things, I mean, most people are in their 60s, actually 70s. And we were very lucky that when a gentleman who worked in one of the great mills up here, Hunter's Abrora, many years ago, stayed in the area. So he's in his mid 70s and he's helping us. So we, as much, and for him, it's just an absolute joy to share this. He thought no one was ever interested in his passion for a Dobbcross loom, which he trained from the age of 16 in Belfast on, to have this crazy people say, we don't really know what we're doing here. Could you maybe just show us how to switch it on? To be able to absorb all of that, skills that are not documented. That wasn't a generation or the era of what you see now in terms of CPD and health, health and safety training, whatever. But because we come, me in particular, come from a background of professional training, then we are really excited to be able to bring that skill back in. I mean, it's still transferable to modern weaving. It's still transferable to what somebody's going to actually learn if they're doing a weaving degree at university, but it's just a slightly different format in terms of how you achieve the final result. So skills are really important. We hopefully are just safeguarding that last little bit of knowledge in that particular process of manufacturing. And then, the industry is challenged. It's small, so it's positioning yourself as a brand to engage with the young talent that that we're seeing here, that we want to stay in Scotland, England, UK. They don't have to go to New York, Milan, or whatever. They can actually be part of a global brand and still stay at home. So the training is, it's fundamental, because it allows you to hopefully grow the industry that a little bit bigger. So to be able to work with yourselves and things like that going forward, which is in a niche area but transferable, I think it's all about protecting that for the next generation. And I think we see vinyl becoming, of more interest. All of these things are coming back, and I think, it would be a real shame to think that this particular style of manufacturing was lost, because I think there's a lot to be said from using your hands and not having a computer tell you what to do.
Absolutely. Yeah, I mean, if anyone hasn't been to a factory that has shuttle looms, they're beautiful things to watch, and they're beautiful things to listen to as well. The sort of repetitive sound is absolutely fantastic.
Yeah.
Just wanted to follow up on another point. I mean, you've talked about the importance of Scotland, and obviously Scotland is at the very heart of everything that Prickly Thistle does. Yeah. And you describe yourselves as the tartan rebels. One of the things that has always concerned me is how companies like yours can take the heritage of tartan and change the story and avoid the worst of it. I mean, I don't mean to be rude about the Royal Mile in Edinburgh, but you walk down the Royal Mile in Edinburgh and there's a lot of tat.
Yeah.
There.
Yeah.
How do you go from being a tartan rebel and avoiding that bad side of the industry?
I think it's about your integrity and your transparency. And our business has definitely benefited massively from social media, global connectivity, posting something on Twitter and somebody in Arizona knows you're awake at 2 a.m. It's a completely different time to them. But yeah, so that world of connectivity, we're one global community, so you can engage with people. And for us, it's been a bit of a kind of, it wasn't like we've got the idea at the very beginning. It's been able to read the situation and just kind of be agile and pivot and react to what people were saying, but being very personal about it. It's usually me still chatting away to everybody on social media, but so to avoid any negative, or I suppose it's not negative, it's just education. It's just letting people know, making people more informed to make the right decision about anything in life. So, but it's doing it, respectfully and professionally, because things change and things move on. So for us, what we've somehow managed to do is that we've kind of taken the word tartan and really focused on the identity, and the kind of symbolism of it in terms of what it means to today. And it's all been around a shared community of values, where we believe, there is the Scottish ancestry and the connection there. Mm-hmm. But the Tartan Act says actually anyone can have a tartan. You don't need to do, you don't need to have Scottish DNA. And it's really about telling story, and we all have this story, and I think that's what tartan really does in a beautiful, simple way. So for us, we've managed just to pivot and introduce this whole values-based way of life, and right now, and it has been for the last few years, is that rebellion is not seen as somebody causing mischief. Rebellion, whether it's the climate change, you see Greta, and that people can't, kind of protesting at school. You see fashion revolution. You see, as a result of what happened there with all of those losses of lives. Even back to the sort of Greenpeace. But you can be, you can rebel against something, but you do it from a place of pure passion. And that's not there to upset or offend anyone. And I think what you see then is just the authentic, real person, not a potentially marketed idea or concept. And so I think we've managed to keep that personal values in there, and people see us as rebels for good.
Excellent. Last question, I guess, is that I mean, you're relatively, bearing in mind the history of this industry, you're a relative newcomer. I'd be really interested in how do you see the industry developing over the next 10 years?
The next 10 years, gosh. Yeah, I want to see it grow across the country. I want to see that job creation, without a doubt, and getting, my children are teenagers, so I'm kind of like sustainability in every sort of walk of life, home life, and everything like that. But I think to create that opportunity for that talent, but also really appreciate what the UK is so good at. We are problem solvers. We look back to the great, Scots, English, whatever, what we've actually achieved in terms of global influence. And it's not forgetting that, and actually realizing that the word innovation that's been kind of banded as a innovative, actually to be innovative doesn't mean that you have to forget everything of the past and just come up with something new because that's innovative, because actually the danger is that becomes destructive. So I think for me, the future is that actually we see a slightly different, that actually maybe if the textiles was considered an old traditional industry and it was very unskilled labor and it was just a mass of people in a factory. We turn it into something that's very sort of tribal, community, edgy, modern. We take our sciences, we take our policies, and we show that whether it's COP26, we take responsibility for the fabric of the planet. We're fabric creators. There's a real connection there. So I think for me, it's seeing that growth and it's seeing that ambition and it's seeing the responsibility of being part of a global community where we can lead the way.
That's fantastic. Claire, thank you so much. You used a fantastic phrase earlier about the place of passion, and I think you embody that. So thank you ever so much indeed for sparing time for us. Do head over to ukft.org and follow us on #British Textile Week on social media for more interviews, views, stories and trends. In the meantime, Claire, thank you so much.
Oh no, thank you, Adam. It's been a pleasure. Thank you.